He has difficulty taking a breath, and his knees start to give. He manages to get out of the tank, but after that, he doesn't remember anything. Then the pump operator, who is near the tank hatch, discovers the bosun also has had serious difficulty and is collapsed on the number 2 platform. The US Coast Guard was informed about what had happened, and a doctor and ambulance called. Clearly, both the first mate and the bosun had problems in the tank, despite the fact that each had breathing apparatus. The chief engineer goes down into the tank, and the protective suit is prepared. The chief fastens the safety belt under the arms of the bosun, who has now been lying in the tank about half an hour. He is hauled up onto the deck. The bosun was immediately taken by the ambulance personnel and brought to the hospital. The chief engineer then goes down and manages to fasten a line around the chief mate, who also gets hoisted to the deck. The officer was examined by the doctor, who could only state that he was already dead. The bosun died later at the hospital. The first mate, second mate and pump operator were all examined at the hospital and later discharged. Unfortunately, this is a quite typical accident. A member of the crew was exposed to danger and dies. The rescue efforts are carried out in such a way that other crew members are put into a dangerous situation and also lose their life. This accident started with the chief mate going down into the tank without the necessary safety equipment. These are the safety rules that apply. After a cargo tank has been flushed, the gas must be measured. No one is ever to go into a tank alone without first making sure that the tank is free of gas. There must always be a watch by the hatch on deck. Protective equipment must be ready at hand, that is, breathing apparatus and safety ropes. Full bearded men must not be used as smoke divers. It has been clearly shown that gas can leak through the sides of the mask. Safety pressure masks must therefore be available. Be certain there is adequate light in tanks where work is to be done. Air-driven cargo lights are the only ones approved, apart from torchlights. Loading and discharging operations have a minimum clothes requirement, long pants and shirt or full coveralls. Everyone on board must learn about the dangers of working with chemicals. Read the instructional information. This accident might have been avoided. The next time you have to do similar work, remember there is protective equipment to help you, and safety regulations. Each year, many seamen are injured because they get bits of metal or other particles in their eyes. Hand tools are never without a risk of danger. Other frequent injuries are cuts and scratches. In the files of the Directorate for Seamen, we find piles of reports of injuries, all of which occurred in the last few years. How do these happen? Common to all of these examples are bits of metal or other particles in the eyes of the injured, which raises the question, what can you do to protect your eyes? The rules of the Norwegian Ship Control about personal protective equipment are doing work where there is danger of bodily injury. Protective gear approved by either the Maritime Directorate or the Directorate for Labour Inspection must be used. This includes tight-fitting work goggles, face screens, helmets, gloves, coveralls, protective shoes, oilskin clothing, hearing protectors, work vests, breathing apparatus, and a filter mask. The protective clothing must be of an easily seen colour. When you're using hand tools, machines or high-pressure sprays that put your eyes in danger, then you must also use protective goggles, unless there is some other safety device to protect your eyes. For any sort of hazardous work, think about the need to protect yourself. Remember the safety regulations. It's simply a matter of good, basic seamanship. Every year aboard Norwegian ships, slippery decks, passageways and ladders cause many accidents. Often these are so serious that the injured must be paid off. There have been many such accidents in recent years, and in the archives of the Directorate for Seamen we can find the injury reports. We're going to take a closer look and try to understand what these injuries are and how they came about. In this case, the mate is on the bridge. The ship rolls, and he falls against the chart table. He tries to break his fall, with two results, a broken rib and finger. A skid-proof mat on the deck could have prevented his injury. Injuries from sliding and falling are caused by slippery ladders and decks. A mechanic is on his way down from the bridge on the weather ladder. There's a bit of a sea. He slips and falls 3 meters. Both legs are badly hurt, most likely broken. His back is injured and his left hand sprained. Skid-proofing the gangway and ladder could have prevented this accident. Good shoes, and in bad weather the use of interior ladders and passageways can preclude such dangerous situations. Another mechanic is working with the mooring line astern. The deck is wet and slippery, and he falls, breaking a tooth. Here too, a skid-proof deck could have reduced the risk of such an injury. A galley hand comes out to throw away the slop. The deck is wet and slippery. He slides and falls, and suffers a major injury to his back, with the result that he must go on sick leave. The best insurance against this sort of accident is also a skid-proof deck and proper footwear. But unfortunately, it's not only wet decks that cause people to slip and hurt themselves. The chief engineer is going from the engine room into the shop to repair some hose fittings. He slips on oily metal filings, and in falling, he wrenches his foot. Here too, it's necessary to skid-proof the deck, but perhaps even more important, keep the deck clear of oil and metal chips, and use good footwear, protective shoes. Many serious accidents have happened because the operator loses control of a high-pressure hose. A mechanic is flushing the deck. He slips, losing his grip on the hose, falls and breaks a rib. Once again, good footwear and the securing of the high-pressure hose with a nozzle that locks automatically if the hose slips could have prevented this injury. These are just a few examples of slipping and falling injuries that have happened on board Norwegian ships. Skid-proofing and proper footwear provide the best insurance against these accidents. Finally, we want to mention this report, the Annual Safety and Environmental Report, published jointly by the Directorate for Seamen and the Council for Labour Supervision on Norwegian ships. It can help you avoid accidents while you work.